All right. What's up, YouTube? Josh here, Momentum Productions. You're going to wait for a few people to tune in here, but we are going to be talking about the DJI Inspire 1, DJI Phantom 4 Pro, and these are two brand new drones that DJI has just released yesterday. So this is pretty exciting because I remember waiting over the weekend, waiting for DJI to release these drones. So this is going to be a really fun topic today. So if you don't know the news is DJI has released two brand new drones, the Inspire 2, the much anticipated Inspire 2, and they actually surprised us by also releasing a Phantom 4 Pro. Let's go ahead and talk about the Phantom 4 Pro really quick. Actually, a lot has changed on the Phantom 4, and something that I've actually thought they would never do, they did, and that was actually put a bigger sensor on the Phantom 4 camera. And I know some of you are hobbyists that are watching, so if you're a cinematographer like I am, you have to really pay attention not only about the drone itself, but you have to look at the camera specs. And so what DJI did with the Phantom 4, they actually increased the sensor size and added a mechanical shutter. This is a huge upgrade. By increasing the sensor size, you're actually increasing the amount of light that the camera can pick up. So you're going to have better low light sensitivity. You're going to have a slightly shallower depth of field, so focus is going to be a little bit more challenging at times, but you will be able to have more of a cinematic effect because of that depth of field. All right, so low light, depth of field. Also, the sensor is jumped up from 12 megapixels up to 20 megapixels. Raw DNG format. Okay, so 12 megapixel, our iPhones can shoot that. 20 megapixel, you're already talking about Canon 6Ds. All right, so this is impressive, and by adding a mechanical shutter, you really lessen the effect of that what we call rolling shutter. A lot of these cameras, like GoPros and former Phantom 4s, did not have a mechanical shutter; they had a digital shutter. So when you have a digital shutter, when you take a picture, you're actually going to get slanted vertical. Like, let's say you take a picture of a basketball pole or something like that. If you're moving fast with the Phantom, if you're doing an orbit, and you decide to take a picture of that pole, you might get a distorted looking pole that might be tilted to its side. But using a mechanical shutter, you actually will get a straight pole and you will be able to fly fast around it. So a mechanical shutter adds a lot. It adds a lot of professionalism. You get that 20 megapixel, you get that increased light sensitivity. The bit rate has jumped almost double from 60 megabits to 100 megabits. So that issue we had with the noise and the weird artifacting, I hope will be completely gone. I'm still debating on whether I want the Phantom 4 Pro or not. I need to go and test it out before I buy it because I already have the Phantom 4. But I'm sure it is an upgrade. All right, so the camera, let's review the camera. What the camera has: increased light sensitivity, shallower depth of field, bitrate jump from 60 megabits to 100 megabits. You get that seems like, yeah, that's about it with the camera. But those are, and mechanical shutter, and those are really huge steps up from the previous Phantom 4 versions. If you're a cinematographer, hell, even if you're a hobbyist, you know, you want to get the best picture quality possible, and the Phantom 4 is starting to really jump up to production level quality stuff. The camera is tiny, but the specs are not. All right, so keep that in mind. Now let's talk about the drone itself, right? What is new about the drone? Motors are the same. Battery has slightly changed. It is increased capacity, so you can get up to 30 minutes of flight time, and you are able to use the older Phantom 4 batteries on the new Phantom 4 Pro, which is a good thing. I'm happy they didn't change that. Also, you get new optical sensing technology. Instead of just having forward collision sensors, you also have side-to-side infrared sensors. You have rear optical 3D cameras for rear optical sensing, rear optical avoidance sensing. You have the downward sensing technology again. And they've added a new feature with the downward facing sensors, just like the Mavic Pro, which I'm actually receiving on Monday finally. It has precision landing, which means that it will record the floor pattern right before it takes off, so that way when it comes back to land, it matches that recording when it took off to when it's landing. So it gets that really centimeter precise landing. So that's a cool feature. And then there's a bunch of cool autonomous flight features like Spotlight Pro, all that good stuff. If you want to learn more about the Spotlight Pro and all those flight features, I don't have the drone with me, otherwise I would have showed you. But there's a whole bunch of new cool autonomous features. You can check them out on YouTube. Type it in, and I'm sure you'll see some good stuff there. All right. So that's the Phantom 4 Pro. Let's move on to the Beast, otherwise known as the Inspire 2. I have the Inspire 1, and the Inspire 2 is quite the upgrade. All right. So, what should we talk about first? Let's talk about the drone itself, and then we'll talk about the cameras. So, all right, so something that I didn't think they would do, they did again, is add optical sensing technology to the DJI Inspire 2. Why did I think they wouldn't add this? It's because the DJI Inspire series is a professional drone, and professional pilots will be flying these things, so you wouldn't really expect a professional drone pilot needing obstacle avoidance. Well, they did, and they put it in there. So that was a nice thing that they did. A nice little courtesy, redundancy feature there. And then something I did expect them to do was add an FPV camera. And something I didn't expect for them to do is actually make it a 2-axis FPV camera. It's not a static camera. It can actually move up and down. And that's really cool. I think that's awesome how you can adjust the pitch on that camera. Also, you have on top of the drone near the battery compartment, you have an infrared sensor that measures height between the drone and any low-hanging obstacles. So let's say you're flying under a tunnel, or you're flying indoors and you don't want to go up and hit the ceiling. This infrared sensor prevents any of that from happening. That's a huge plus. Something I wish they would have included on the sensing technology is side-to-side infrared sensors like the Phantom 4 and rear optical avoidance sensors. Like the Phantom 4 Pro. I don't know why they didn't add that in there. It's a little shocking to me, actually. Because you can see in the demo video of the Inspire 2 is that they fly, a lot of the shots they're flying backwards. But luckily, since this camera is allowed to rotate 360 degrees, you can actually fly forward and have the camera pointing backward. So I guess it's not that big of a deal, but if you're going to build such an expensive drone, I would add 360-degree obstacle avoidance. And there are a few negatives about the Inspire 2 that I'm going to talk about with you. A few things that actually surprised me and really disappointed me. But let's talk more about what the features are on the Inspire 2. On the Inspire 2, we also have a dual battery compartment. A dual battery compartment is something I also did not expect from DJI. This not only adds a safety redundancy issue, but it also increases flight time because your payload is going to be, the Inspire 2 is heavier than the Inspire 1. So the payload is going to be more, so you're going to need more juice. So your battery flight time has increased from a maximum of 18 minutes to a maximum of 25 to 27 minutes. Big jump there. Almost a 10-minute jump. So that's really nice. Again, new battery technology is supposed to hit the market anytime soon, and we should see hours and hours of flight time with minutes and minutes, just minutes of charging time. So right now, battery technology is not impressing me. So 27-minute flight time to me is not yet impressive. I want to see at least an hour of flight time. So when that happens, I will be impressed. But the fact that they did dual battery compartments, I think that's a really great idea, especially for redundancy. What's happening to GoPro Karma is absolutely awful. Their batteries are failing. With the Inspire 2, at least you're protected from that. If one battery fails, you got a second one that can take over and land the drone safely. So yeah, and if you don't know, GoPro Karma, I think hurt GoPro greatly. GoPro is in very big trouble. But we'll talk about that in another video. But anyway, that's the Inspire 2 battery compartment. Motors have been significantly improved, jumping from 50 miles per hour to 67 miles per hour, ladies and gentlemen. This is fantastic, especially if you're chasing cars. I remember I filmed last year, or actually earlier this year, an Aston Martin shoot, and my Inspire 1 had a really hard time keeping up with the Aston Martins. I was topping out 45, 50 miles per hour. But if I decide to get the Inspire 2, I will be able to film them a lot better going through the canyons, going over 60 miles per hour. So that would be awesome. I think that's actually my biggest excitement about the Inspire 2 is its speed. I think that's fantastic. I've always wanted a drone that fast. However, the body for the main part stayed the same. You got your raising landing gear to help out with a 360-degree field of view. You also have a new shell, magnesium alloy shell. So it's not plastic anymore. There is magnesium. So if you don't know what magnesium is, this is the same material that our Canon 5Ds are made out of, our Sony A7Ss are made out of. That's all magnesium. So that's what the shell is made out of. Obviously, I think it's a composite, so it is going to be very thin and very light. Now, back to the obstacle avoidance sensors. Their sensitivity has increased. So now you can fly. Now you can fly a little bit faster and have the sensors work without them shutting off. So instead of flying like on the Phantom 4, the maximum speed you could fly at was 22 miles per hour before the sensors would shut off. The Phantom 4 Pro actually increased that to 31 miles per hour, and so did the Inspire 2. So you can fly at 31, 32 miles per hour with the sensors still engaged. So that's a good thing. 32 miles per hour for me is not that fast, but it would be nice to have the sensors work at full speed. And they will get there eventually. They will get there. Once they make these sensors more sensitive, they'll be able to detect obstacles farther away, and that way the drone will be able to travel faster. So we're waiting for that. So these sensors now jumped from sensing things at 50 feet to 100 feet. So that is why you can fly faster with these sensors engaged. Okay. Now let's talk about image quality in cameras. We have a new image core processing system called, I think it's pronounced Cinecore, Cinecore 2.0. And what this allows, instead of having on the Inspire 1, instead of having that big bulky unit, Um, Big bulky unit under. Wow, what is happening here? Instead of having that big bulky unit under near the camera on the Inspire 1, it's all integrated into the shell inside the body of the Inspire 2. So I love that. It does incredible things like process images at 5.2K resolution using the X5S camera. You also get H.264, H.265 at 100 megabits per second. You get Apple ProRes and Cinema DNG. You get raw footage, guys. And instead of having that bulky, ugly unit hanging off of the Inspire 1, this is all integrated inside. So it's a lot sleeker, and I love it. Another thing that's important to understand is that we no longer have an SSD drive hanging out outside of the Inspire 1. Everything is built in. So now you put in the SSD drive inside the Inspire 2, and everything is recorded that way. Alright, so keep that in mind. That's very, very important. So another thing we have to remember is that SSD drives are very, very expensive. So maybe that's a little downgrade for some of you, but another good thing is that we can incorporate SD cards. So you don't always have to rely on SSD, you can actually get an SD card as well. Also, let's talk about image quality. Again, image quality is going to be phenomenal. It's raw. Apple ProRes. This is literally, there's no compression here. You are going to get great, great image quality. My biggest downside with the Inspire 2 is that it does not come with a camera. It is $100 more than when the Inspire 1 first came out, and it does not come with a camera. And I can sort of see why they did that. Of course, more materials were used to make the Inspire 2. I mean, Cinecore 2 is very, very expensive. Adding dual compartments for batteries is very expensive. But I honestly think if you're going to charge $29.99 for a drone, you got to at least put a camera on there. You want to make it ready to fly, ready to film. So I was a little disappointed with with that, how they didn't incorporate a camera in there. I think it's so important. I think it's so important for the Inspire 2 to have a built-in camera. Not a built-in camera, but a camera that comes with it. But, you know. We also have, I'm sorry I didn't add this, but in the downward-facing sensors, we also have terrain detection. So when you're landing, the Inspire 2 can detect terrain, for example, trees or rocks, and it can actually detect level surfaces and safe areas for it to land. Besides that, we covered performance, we covered most of the tech on the Inspire 2, we covered the body, again, carbon fiber legs, same material as the Inspire 1. Motors have been significantly increased in power, jumping from 50 miles per hour to 67 miles per hour, over 2 kilograms of thrust, which translates to about 4.5 pounds of thrust per motor, which is phenomenal. A lot of power there, guys. Again, just like the Phantom 4 Pro, we get our autonomous flight features, and yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. If you got the money, it's great. But again, I think the Inspire 2 has moved over to really high production stuff. So if you're a freelance filmmaker like I am, I don't think you'll be using the Inspire 2. I don't, because I barely use my Inspire 1. And the Inspire 1 was meant for, again, the same type of filmmakers for, really pro production stuff. I use my Phantom 4 more than my Inspire 1. And when my Mavic comes on Monday, I'm going to be using that more than the Phantom 4 and the Inspire 1. So again, if you're a freelance filmmaker, you got to be portable. So you got to have everything small and compact. So you're going to be using the Mavic over the Inspire 1 and over the Phantom 4. However, if you're working in a real film production, like there's a crew and all that stuff, then yeah, and if you have a budget for it, buy the Inspire 2. So that's my take on that. Really quick, let me find out how much it weighs. The price standard of the DJI Inspire 2 is $29.99. Let's talk about the weight here. 7.25 pounds, including 2 batteries without the gimbal and camera. See, the Inspire 1 was 6.4 pounds. So it did increase in weight. So yeah, that's what it is. And another cool feature is that you no longer need a battery heater. The batteries heat themselves up now, so you can fly in colder weather. Todd Davis, why does the Inspire 1 cost more than the Inspire 1 version 2? I don't know. That's weird. Maybe it's a ripoff. Maybe it's because the Inspire 1 is more like considered a classic drone now because it was the first of its kind. Maybe. Think about that. But anyway, I wanted to sign on here, guys, talk to you a little bit about that type of stuff. If you have any questions, again, comment below, email me, info@capturethemomentum.com, and let's talk about drones. Let me know if you'd consider buying any of these. I might be. I'm still debating, and we'll talk about it. All right, guys, I'm signing off here. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining, and happy Wednesday. Peace.